Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopi Janavallabha Girivardhari. Jai Gopi Janavallabha Girivardhari. Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana. Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Padurikacharya Ashtotarya Sri Srimad's Divine Grace Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. ISKCON BBT Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Padurikacharya Ashtotarya Sri Srimad's Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Ki Jai. Anantakoti Vaishnavina Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai. Samaveda Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Guru and Gauranga. Damodar, is it possible you can move on this side? It's kind of unbalanced. It'd be better if I could just move. Thanks. Narayanam namaskritya Narang chaiva narottamam Devim saraswatim vyasam Tato jayamudiriye. Before reciting this Srimad Bhagavatam, which is our very means of conquest, we should offer our respectful obeisances unto Lord Narayan, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, unto Narayan Rishi, the supermost human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, unto Srila Vyasadeva, the author, and unto Srila Prabhupada, the translator, commentator, and our spiritual master. Nashta prayesha bhadreshu nityam bhagavata sevaya bhagavatyuttama shloke bhakti bhavati naishtiki. By regular attendance in classes on Srimad Bhagavatam and by rendering devotional service to the pure devotee, all that is inauspicious within the heart is destroyed almost to nil, and loving devotion to the Supreme Lord, who is glorified in transcendental songs, is established as an irrevocable fact. Damodar, can you pull those curtains for me? Thanks. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. On this 13th day of March 2019 in SanDiego, we're reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, translation and commentary by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. We are in Canto 4, the creation of the fourth order, and Chapter 11, Swayambhuva Manu advises Dhruva Maharaj to stop fighting, text number 6. Tan hanyamanam habiviksha guyakan anagasaschittaratena bhurishaha Altanapadim kripaya pitamaho Manu jagado pagatak saharshibihi. Is it a mistake or is it okay? Altanapadim. Okay. Tan hanyamanam habiviksha guyakan Anagasaschitraratena bhurishaha Altanapadim kripaya pitamaho Mano jagado pakatak saharshibihi Tan hanyamanan habiviksha guyakan Anagasaschitraratena bhurishaha Altanapadim kripaya pitamaho Mano jagado pakatak saharshibihi Tananyamanan habiviksha guyakan Anagasaschittaratena bhurishaha Altanapadim kripaya pitamaho Mano jagado pakatak saharshibihi Tananyamanan habiviksha guyakan Anagasaschittaratena bhurishaha Altanapadim kripaya pitamaho Mano jagado pagatak saharshibihi. Tan, those yakshas, hanyamanan, being killed, abhiviksha, seeing, guyakan, the yakshas, anagasaha, offenseless, chittaratena, by Dhruva Maharaj, who had a beautiful chariot, bhurishaha, greatly, Altanapadim, unto the son of Uttanapada, kripaya, out of mercy, pitamaha, the grandfather, manuhu, swayambhuva manu, jagada, gave instructions, upagataha, approached, saharishibihi, with great sages. Translation. When Swayambhuva Manu saw that his grandson, Dhruva Maharaj, was killing so many of the yakshas who were not actually offenders, out of his great compassion he approached Dhruva with great sages to give him good instruction. Purport. Dhruva Maharaj attacked Alakapuri, the city of the yakshas, because his brother was killed by one of them. Actually, only one of the citizens, not all of them, was guilty of killing his brother, Uttama. Dhruva Maharaj, of course, took a very serious step when his brother was killed by the yakshas. War was declared, and the fighting was going on. This sometimes happens in present days also. For one man's fault, a whole state is sometimes attacked. This kind of wholesale attack is not approved by Manu, the father and lawgiver of the human race. He therefore wanted to stop his grandson Dhruva from continuing to kill the yaksha citizens who were not offenders. I'm going to read one more. Manu Uvacha. Oh, you got a book? Okay. Manu Uvacha. Alam vatsati roshena. Tamodvarena papmana. Yena punya jananetan. Avadis Tamanagasaha. Lord Manu said, "My dear son, please stop. It is not good to become unnecessarily angry. It is the path to hellish life. Now you are going beyond the limit by killing yakshas who are actually not offenders." Purport. In this verse, the word adiroshena means with unnecessary anger. When Dhruva Maharaj went beyond the limits of necessary anger, his grandfather, Swayambhuva Manu, immediately came to protect him from further sinful action. From this we can understand that killing is not bad, but when killing is done unnecessarily or when an offenseless person is killed, such killing opens the path to hell. Dhruva Maharaj was saved from such sinful action because he was a great devotee. A Kshatriya is allowed to kill only for maintenance of the law and order of the state. He is not allowed to kill or commit violence without reason. Violence is certainly a path leading to a hellish condition of life, but it is also required for maintenance of the law and order of the state. Here Lord Manu prohibited Dhruva Maharaj from killing the Yakshas because only one of them was punishable for killing his brother Uttama. Not all of the Yaksha citizens were punishable. We find in modern warfare, however, that attacks are made upon innocent citizens who are without fault. According to the law of Manu, such warfare is a most sinful activity. Furthermore, at the present moment, civilized nations are unnecessarily maintaining many slaughterhouses for killing innocent animals. When a nation is attacked by its enemies, the wholesale slaughter of the citizens should be taken as a reaction to their own sinful activities. This is nature's law. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Salakaya Chakshu Unmilatam Mena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkness of ignorance, but my spiritual master Srila Prabhupada opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer my humble obeisance unto him and all members of Sri Parampara. So, in the evening class, we're reading from the 3rd chapter. We're at the end now with this section of Kama, all about Kama and how to control it. And Arjun's question there is very pertinent to our present subject matter, because he's asking there, Atakena payukto yam papam charati purusha anichanna vibharshnaya bhaladi viniyojita. By what is one forced to act, even against his will, and perform a sinful activity? And Krishna answers, Kama esha krodha esha rajogana samudbhava mahashano mahapapma vidyanam evaidinam, that the real enemy in this world, Arjun, is lust, which is transformed into wrath or intense anger, and which is the all-devouring sinful enemy of this world. So, what we find explained there in the 3rd chapter, and Arjun's question, that practically this lust and anger can overtake one's intelligence and force one to perform activities that are against the law and that are against one's own best interest and the interest of everyone else. So we see that even though Dhruva Maharaj was such an exalted devotee, and he was headed back to Vaikuntha, he'd already had his ticket punched, so to speak, still he went overboard. When his brother was killed, he became so angry that he started annihilating all of the yakshas. And Manu had to come down. And Manu was acting here like his good intelligence coming to the fore and controlling the lower self by the higher self. So this principle here, this is one of the lessons here, is that even the great souls, some of as advanced as Dhruva Maharaj, over the course of this 35,000-year kingdom that he's reigning over, his brother was killed, and his stepmother was also she also died in a forest fire. But the yakshas were responsible. But instead of finding out which yaksha did it, and investigating him, after all, he is the king. He's meant to have a law enforcement department. He just started wholesale annihilating all the yakshas, which was out of line. Similar thing happened with the Janmajaya, I think the son of Parikshit, when after he was killed by the snake bird, Takshaka. Then Janmajaya decided to perform a sacrifice and kill all the snakes in the world, and that was overboard. That was too much, and he was appealed to, I think, by Indra to stop, and he eventually did. So Takshaka didn't actually die in that conflagration. But this is the nature of anger, is that it, as described in the Bhagavad Gita, in conjunction with lust, that it burns like fire, and it oftentimes destroys so much, and then after that you say, oh my God, what have I done? What have we done? The last 100 years or so, like modern Kali Yuga in general, but because of the technology and creating of these weapons of mass destruction, there was World War I, which was an incredible waste of human life. It started over. I think Prabhupada's referring to World War I here when he says that. What is this? The first verse we read. War is declared and fighting is going on. For one man's fault, a whole state is sometimes attacked. So I don't know if you know the history of World War I so much. I don't know so much about it, but I know that there was one assassination of somebody in Austria that kind of kicked off the whole thing. It was just like a match. As you throw it into a bunch of gasoline-soaked rags, and the whole conflagration took place. And you had this horrific situation where you had the, millions of young men. They had these trenches, and it was like the front, and no one was moving, But they would throw the bombs, they were throwing gas, poison gas, and just waves and waves and waves of these, young guys were assassinated on both sides. Germany and England were against each other, and after it, everyone was just aghast that this had happened for no good reason. It wasn't like one country attacked another, for some particularly good reason. It was just, because of these alliances that developed, but the weapons had become so more advanced at that point. So they started. They said, "Well, we can't have this again." So I think they started the League of Nations. They had the Brion Pact or something to try to bring peace. But what happened? The World War I ended in 1918, I think, and then was 21 years later. You had World War II, a mere 21 years later, which was even more horrific. So this is which was the, you could say it was one man, one Hitler guy, who had mobilized these people with this incredible crazy ideology, and he blamed the Jews, and anyway, it's a long story. How did he build up his arms so much? That was Westerners. I don't know if you know that. Americans were financing the industry in Germany and building up the weaponry there, so that they would combat the Bolsheviks. That revolution was a big danger to capitalism. Anyway, the whole thing, that was like 60 million people died in there, and Russia was just decimated. Soviet Union was decimated. They paid the greatest price in defeating Hitler. So this is what happens, and Prabhupada explains one of the reasons why you have these mass slaughters is because they're killing the cows so much. You can see it even without understanding, the transcendental law of karma and how it's going to happen. What happens to your heart? What happens to your sensitivity when you have mass slaughterhouses, or in this country, it was built on two horrific crimes against humanity, obviously great sins, slavery, from the early 1600s all the way to the late 1800s. Slavery was legal. That was, you think there's no karma for that? And then after the slavery, after the Civil War was finally won, then you had these massive annihilations of the Indians, of the native Indians. They were already being killed, but they really got going after that, and settling the West, where we're sitting here. Genocide. So you have slavery and genocide. Now you think that there's no karmic result for that? So that's so far out of the Vedic culture. But Prabhupada says there is a need for violence. A state is only a state when it has the monopoly on violence, of legal violence. That's the idea. Is that if someone commits a crime against you, you can't just take revenge. Everything, it'll just be like the law of the jungle then. There has to be a law. Okay, you call the police, And they investigate, yes, and they go find the guy, and then they arrest him. Then there's a trial and punishment. But the state is meant to have their policemen and also the soldiers, and they can commit violence supposedly under law, which is supposedly some kind of justice, Now, because of Kali Yuga, it becomes corrupt, and from the top down, you have leaders who are corrupted, who are demons, and then you have chaos, which is what we've had, in history. And now, and Prabhupada explains in the Upanishad, we're going to read it soon in the Monday classes, how the communists and the capitalists both have these atomic bombs, and they're going to use them eventually, unless they become Krishna conscious, unless there's a change of heart. And it's just, I speak about this often, I'm not going to go into detail, but it's an absolute miracle that there hasn't been another world war, with the bombs shooting off. The various times when it almost happened, and I don't know if you know this, I'll give you one example. I forget when this happened, probably in the 80s. They had this system, I don't know if they still have it now, that they have these big bombers, B-52s, which were there in World War II. That was another horrific thing. We started firebombing the cities, Dresden and Tokyo. You just keep dropping bombs until the whole city turns on fire. So what is that? Women, old men, women, children are caught in the fire. They took shelter in the basement. They all suffocated. When you get a fire like that, a firestorm in a city, it sucks up all the oxygen. And thousands, hundreds of thousands were killed in there. And in Dresden was the same thing, firebombing. So it had these bombers after World War II. America had won the war. Basically, we were just hardly scathed at all. We were protected by the oceans. So what happened when they developed the Cold War and the Soviet Union got the bomb, and that was a big thing. And so they were building up their armaments. So the Americans had these B-52s. So the idea is that you have to deter the other party from shooting, the nuclear bombs. And the only way you can deter them is if you have credible second strike capability. You may bomb us with your ICBMs and you'll knock out New York and everything, but we have our bombs that are going to get you, so you won't do it, because Moscow will be killed and millions and millions of people will be killed. So that's deterrence. It's called mutually assured destruction. What's the acronym? You know what an acronym is? The letters, MAD, mutually assured destruction. So anyway, so they're going on. So they have this program where there were always B-52s flying 24 hours a day with nuclear bombs, so that the Russians couldn't kill them. They may kill the airfields, they may bomb the airfields, but those B-52s will be up there, and they'll go over and strike Russia. So that'll be a deterrent, you see? So that meant 24 hours a day you're taking off. These B-52s are huge, Anyway, what happened was that one of those B-52s, I think it was North Carolina or South Carolina, in the middle of a flight with hydrogen bombs in it, it just fell apart. And the wing fell off or something. In other words, it's coming down with the bombs in it. And I think there were 2 hydrogen bombs. And they had these safety switches, which are like on the level of what you can buy in Ace hardware, And it was a one final switch that just did its thing and prevented the bomb from blowing up. And they say, okay, well, how would that be the end of the world? Well, because immediately there would be a big hydrogen explosion, and we would assume that it's the Russians who are attacking us, and we wouldn't go to send our bombs; they would send their bombs. But it didn't happen. That bomb is still sitting somewhere in the ocean off of North Carolina or something. It happened. You can look it up. Madness, right? We wouldn't be sitting here. None of us would have been. Well, I would have been born, but not soon. Anyway, there's like 30 or 40 instances like that. So we're like on an edge here, We've had this. There's a Greek myth or something called the Sword of Damocles, where this person was forced to live with this huge sword, that would kill him, and it was just held by a thread or a thin rope. So he's living with that kind of anxiety, So that's what the world is like. So why is this pertinent? Well, because we're talking about violence and the need for the state to be able to have violence, and violence is sometimes necessary. Just like you have a surgeon, he has a knife, he gets somebody, puts them on a table, and cuts them open. Now, that could be a crime, too. If you have some crazy guy, he goes into an apartment and just, knifes someone open, cuts them open. But because he's doing it for the benefit of the person, and the person has agreed to it, yes, I have to go through this violence for the health of my whole body, then something is pulled out, some operation is taken. So it's like that. There has to be the need for violence in the state, because there are going to be criminals. There are going to be those who are out of bounds, who are a danger to society, a danger to themselves, and danger to others. So there needs to be ability for the Kshatriyas, But what are the Kshatriyas? Kshatriyas are meant to be controlled by the Brahmins. Not that they get this power and then they just use it to dominate everyone else. The Brahmins are meant to be repositories of the actual Vedic knowledge, which is meant to control society and also individuals for their benefit. But it can be a two-edged sword. When that violence is misused, what's going on over here? Is there some bug crawling along? The other night we had the class, and it was caught on, he films it, and there was some kind of mouse that just skidded across the floor in the middle of the class. I didn't see it, and no one apparently saw it, but he caught it on tape. So I thought maybe that mouse is back. Anyway, so violence is necessary, but it has to be done with an intelligence informed by the law, by the laws of Manu, by the srimadbhagavatam and so forth. So Dhruva was out of line, and of course he surrendered to the authority of Swayambhuva Manu, and he stopped annihilating all of the actions. So that's a perfect example of how a real Kshatriya, a Rajarshi, who Dhruva certainly was, is controlled by the law. That's the problem is when you have these demonic leaders come up, they don't want to be controlled. They want to make the law. But the law, the real law, Dharma, is defined by Krishna. Dharmam to sakshat bhagavat pranita. Prabhu would quote this line all the time. This is, I think, by Daksha, and later after his problem in the fourth canon. Dharmam to sakshat. Oh no, I'm sorry. This is Yamaraj. He's speaking like that in the sixth canon. So Dharma to sakshat bhagavatam nityam. Real Dharma is enunciated by Bhagavan, by the Lord. Now, the question was, well, how do we know what Bhagavan said? This is the need for Shastra, revealed scripture, given to us by realized devotees, those who are actually transparent media, who can transmit us the Dharma as it is, and in a way that we can understand and is pertinent for our time, place, and circumstance. So there is always need for a line of disciplic succession of real acharyas and realized souls, who are completely free from any material motivation for what they're doing. That's the whole point, is that at the top of society, there has to be those who have no material motive, that they're only doing it for the benefit of others. We read the Bhagavatam every day. But what's the context? These sages at Naimisharanya, they've gathered to perform this 1,000-year sacrifice for the benefit of the Kali Yugites, because they can see by their mystic power what's coming. They're not going to live very long, they'll be always disturbed. And then the 12th canon was detailed. The longevity will decrease, truthfulness will decrease, bodily strength will decrease, everything will decrease. And we're experiencing it now. So what can be the countervailing force? Only, again, to establish the authority of the Shastra and the Guru and the Sadhus, and that guides our life. And we have a method of sadhana that can tamp down the fire of lust and anger, and actually the higher intelligence can control the lower self, and we can show society how to live in such a way that's not just dog eat dog and the law of the jungle, eventually blowing up the whole earth. I mean, you got two crises that are going to be with us as long as I live and as long as you live, certainly. As long as you live, and even certainly as long as I live. And that is the threat of nuclear war which has always been here, but is again coming back. People who can see what's going on and say it's worse than the Cuban crisis. It's just like the Cold War now. And climate change, climate catastrophe. Let's call it what it is. You have huge numbers of species dying off every day, and many on the edge of extinction, and by the activities of the human beings on this planet, the habitat is becoming unlivable for all kinds of species, and eventually unlivable for human beings. That's not good. So, but the root cause is the same. It's always the same. It's uncontrolled material desire, which covers any kind of knowledge, turns you into a raging demon. You may have be able to speak very nicely and have a veneer of civilization, but you're worse than the demons in the Bhagavatam, because you just wholesale killing of men, women, and children, and making the earth unlivable. It's actually a kind of madness. It's totally, there's this whole industry now growing up. You may or may not know this, because there's like a certain upper crust of billionaires and multimillionaires, who are running everything, right? So they can see it's coming. They know what's going on by their own activity. Well, what is their solution? Not to stop it, try to reform it, but to try to create, to build some bunker somewhere in New Zealand or somewhere where they figure the bombs won't fall directly. And in this way to ride out the storm and live out their petty little lives. Can you imagine? I mean, isn't that crazy? I mean, if the bombs really start falling, here, come on. Where is it falling? Make sure that you get... Do you want to survive that? It's already getting crazy with the homeless people. I mean, they're victims, you can see, But can you imagine hordes and hordes of people who can't find food, and all of them have guns? There's more guns in this country than people. That's what everything is headed toward. So the solution is always Krishna consciousness, and that is on a personal level. The only way we can deal with this, we can keep doing what we're doing, which is doing the best we can do for society as well as ourselves. To read this philosophy, follow it, chant Hare Krishna, and try to give it as much as the holy name, prasadam, and knowledge to others. That's what we can do for society. It's the best welfare work. Don't have any doubt about it. But, I mean, materially it looks like impossible. Of course, this whole movement seemed impossible at the beginning. So who knows what Krishna has in store? But our own personal solution for what's coming, everyone's going to face their own little apocalypse at one point. Due to death is inevitable. But the mass death and the conflagrations and the madness that very disturbing. You want to be able to leave your body in Vrindavan or a Vrindavan-like atmosphere surrounded by devotees chanting Hare Krishna. Well, that may not be possible. It may be we'll all just be huddling in the room here chanting Hare Krishna, and the bombs are coming. Right. Kirtan, that's the test. I'm not saying anything that's so far-fetched, but you read the Bhagavatam. There's so many things obviously apply to our everyday lives, and this one has just struck me. Number one, that be careful when with the mode of passion. Here, Dhruva let his anger get hold of him, and he was doing something that was out of bounds, even for him. And he stopped. He was able to stop as soon as he heard the instruction of the superiors, right? Move him on it. And the other thing is to understand what's going on around us. Is that there's all kinds of these demoniac forces at work in this world. And this whole slaughterhouse business and mass killing. It's even in the climate thing now, they realize, if they just had dairy cows, it would be much less. But maintaining these vast factory farms and slaughtering and tormenting and slaughtering the millions and millions of cows and millions of pigs and millions of chickens. These are all living entities that are being absolutely tortured from the day they appear and born to the day that they're slaughtered. And you think there's no karma for that? That's come and do. So the only hope is widespread spread of Krishna consciousness and the knowledge that's contained here in these books. Any questions, comments on these points? Dhruva is exemplary in his response. First of all, we saw how he was able to overcome the danger just by remembering Narayan and chanting the holy name. And then he, after beginning to annihilate the yakshas, he took the advice and instruction of his grandfather to stop. Okay, any discussion on these points? How do we do with the garland? Successful? Now the thing is, are we going to be able to speak to this lady? Okay, let's try to find out who she is and try to train her up a little bit before next Tuesday night. Because remember, Wednesday is Gaurapanim. We don't want to have a garland like that in Prabhupada and people come in for Gaurapanim. Get everything straightened out. Okay, all glory to Srila Prabhupada.